subscribe to the best revenge. If you believe loyalty doesn't come from blood, it comes from who shows up when no one else will. Like this video. If you know that sometimes strangers treat us better than our own flesh and blood. My name is Lana, I'm 27 years old, and I'm from Spain. But today I'm here to share the story of my grandfather, a quiet, brilliant man named Mateo, whose final decision shattered our greedy little family and changed everything. Because while we were busy fighting over what he owned, one stranger was quietly earning what none of us deserved. Grandpa Mateo was 79. He'd survived a war, buried a wife, raised 2 kids, and built a home from the ground up, a beautiful stone house on a hill overlooking the valley. It had gardens, hand-carved doors, and a library that smelled like wisdom. And the moment he fell ill, my family turned into wolves. My dad and his brother, both grown men with their own houses and bank accounts, started talking like Grandpa was already dead. Who's getting the house? I mean, Dad knows I've always wanted to live closer to the hills. He'll probably split it between us, right? I remember sitting there, stunned, as they measured out inheritance with coffee in their hands and no shame in their eyes. They didn't visit Grandpa, didn't check on him, didn't bring soup or sit by his bedside. But you know who did? The pizza guy. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but hear me out. His name was Tomas. He wasn't your typical pizza guy. He was in his early 30s, wore a red beanie even in summer, and always had a warm smile, the kind that wasn't forced. The kind that made Grandpa Mateo's old eyes light up. At first, we thought Grandpa was just ordering food because he was too tired to cook, but then it became a routine. Every Tuesday and Friday, Tomas would show up like clockwork, pizza box in hand, and usually a second small bag with something extra, a book, a thermos of soup, a handwritten note. And he wouldn't just drop it off and leave. He'd sit with Grandpa, talk with him, play cards, help him with the garden if the day was nice. Meanwhile, my dad and uncle, they visited once every 3 weeks. Maybe. If they weren't too busy or not stuck in traffic. They thought the house was already theirs. They even whispered about remodeling Grandpa's study after he was gone. One time I heard my uncle say, "We'll just clean out the old man's junk. This place needs a refresh." That junk? Letters from Grandma. First edition books. Handmade wooden furniture from before I was even born. I started visiting Grandpa more often after that. Not to win anything. I just couldn't stand the coldness. One afternoon I asked him, "Why do you like Tomas so much?" He smiled, eyes twinkling. He shows up. He listens. He brings peace when everyone else brings noise. I never forgot that. But my family, they didn't care. A month before Grandpa passed, things got ugly. My dad and uncle tried to pressure him into signing over the house while he was still alive. They showed up with a lawyer, waved a contract in his face, said it was for simplifying the estate process. But Grandpa, he may have been weak in body, but his mind was sharper than ever. He refused, politely but firmly. They left furious. 2 weeks later, he collapsed in the garden, a stroke. He made it through, but the doctors said he had weeks, maybe days. That's when everyone suddenly remembered how to show up. Suddenly, there were flowers by his bed. Suddenly, my aunt flew in from another country. Suddenly, my dad came every day with catered meals, playing the role of the dutiful son. But you know who was already there? Tomas. Helping the nurses, reading books aloud, cleaning dishes no one else touched. Grandpa didn't say much those last days. But on his final afternoon, he asked to be alone with Tomas. They talked for nearly an hour. When Tomas left, he nodded at me in the hallway, eyes red but grateful, like someone who had just said goodbye to a father. Grandpa passed that night, peacefully, quietly. But the chaos that followed, not peaceful at all. A week after the funeral, we gathered in the lawyer's office, the whole family. My dad was wearing his nicest suit, the one he only brought out for weddings or courtrooms. My aunt had a smug look on her face like she already knew what was coming. Even her teenage sons tagged along, probably thinking they were about to inherit a summer house. Tomas, he wasn't invited. But he showed up anyway, quietly, politely, and waited in the hallway. The lawyer came in holding a thick envelope with Grandpa's handwriting on it. He sat down, cleared his throat, and began to read. "To my son Javier and my daughter Lucia, you are my children. And I love you, despite how little of that love you returned when it mattered most. My father shifted in his seat. I watched you argue over the house like it was a trophy I owed you, not a life I built with your mother, stone by stone. You saw it as an asset, never as a home. My aunt's smile vanished. Then the lawyer turned to a new page. His voice got slower. To the young man who delivered more than pizza, who delivered dignity, compassion, and companionship when I had nothing left to offer in return. Everyone froze. My cousin whispered, "No." I leave the house, the keys, the land, and my gratitude, because love is not earned through blood, but through presence. There was complete silence. You could hear the air conditioner humming. Then my dad stood up, red in the face. "Is this some kind of joke? You're giving our house to a delivery boy?" The lawyer calmly replied, "No, sir. Your house was your own. His house is now the one your father left him, legally and irrevocably." I walked out into the hallway and found Tomas still waiting, hat in hand. I nodded at him. "He left it to you, the house, everything." He didn't celebrate, he didn't cheer. He just looked down, eyes glassy, and whispered, "I told him I didn't need anything. I just didn't want him to feel alone." And that, right there, is why he deserved it all. After the will was read, the family scattered like flies from a flame. My aunt stormed out, threatening legal action she couldn't afford. My father tried to save face, saying, "Well, I didn't want the place anyway. Too old, too much upkeep." But everyone could see through it. Their pride was cracked wide open. Meanwhile, Tomas? He didn't move into the house right away. He showed up the next morning with a broom, not a suitcase. He cleaned Grandpa's porch, watered the garden, took care of the cats. I visited him a few weeks later, curious if he'd changed anything. But when I stepped inside, the house was still exactly as Grandpa had left it. Photos still on the wall, books still lined up on the shelf. Even Grandpa's slippers still resting by the fireplace. Tomas looked at me and said, "This isn't mine. It's his. I'm just keeping it warm." And that's when it hit me. This wasn't revenge with fireworks or shouting. This was something quieter, deeper. The man they called a nobody. The man they mocked behind closed doors. The man they couldn't even be bothered to acknowledge had been given everything. Not because he took it, but because he showed up. Every single time. It's been a year since then. The house is still there, still peaceful. Kids from the village come by sometimes to sit with Tomas and hear stories about the old man who built this place with love. And my family? They've gone back to pretending none of it happened. But I remember. And every time I see that house on the hill, no longer full of arguments and greed, but kindness, I smile. Because Grandpa didn't just leave a house behind. He left a lesson. Show up when it matters. Love when it's inconvenient. And never assume you deserve anything simply because of your last name. Sometimes the people we call strangers are the only ones who treat us like family. And that was the best revenge. If this story moved you, please subscribe to The Best Revenge, like the video, and share it with someone who needs to remember. Inheritance isn't just about what you leave behind. It's about who truly earned it. And so the house my family fought over became a home for someone who never asked for anything but gave everything. No fancy cars pulled up, no parties, no renovations, just warmth, stillness, respect. Every creak of the floorboards, every breeze through the open window, they whisper one thing: he was there when you weren't. That's what Grandpa rewarded. Not blood, not promises, but presence. So if you're listening right now and you've ever felt overlooked, unwanted, or like you didn't have the right last name to matter, remember this: kindness echoes longer than ambition, loyalty outlives greed, and showing up quietly can change everything. This wasn't just about a house. This was about honor. And in the end, the one who honored Grandpa with time, presence, and dignity left with everything, because sometimes the people we overlook end up carrying the legacy we never deserved. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to The Best Revenge for more stories that remind us justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just signs a will in silence.